Mimi ndiye nitakuwa mkuu wa sherehe hii. Niendelee? I can see we are having some problems, so I'm going to switch to Kikuyu. Sorry, not Kikuyu. I'm going to switch to English. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome you to this conference. My name is Karori Mbogwa, and my job here is really that of Master of Ceremony. So I'll be in charge of this ceremony. And without much ado, we are going to start with the national anthem. And yes, can we stand up for the national anthem? Malva. Thank you. You may be seated. So Professor Kiama Mugambi is going to start us off with a word of prayer. Professor Kiama Mugambi, are you here? Please.
Good morning. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Our God, we're grateful for gathering us in this way. We invite you to be here present among us, that you'd open up our minds. We ask that you, who is the source of wisdom, would pour forth your brilliance upon our intellect. And we ask that you would dissipate the darkness of sin and ignorance that covers us. I pray and ask that you would grant us penetrating minds to understand in the deliberations that we will have. We invite you to give us a retentive method and ease in learning, and the lucidity to comprehend, an abundant grace in expressing ourselves. We pray for good health, for strength. We ask your blessing on all the deliberations and the food and refreshments that we will eat. the fellowship that we will have. We pray that you give us strength in our bodies and keep away illness from us. We want to ask that you guide the beginning of this conference, that you direct its progress and bring it to successful completion. This I ask through Jesus Christ. Amen.
So at this juncture, I would like to invite Imam Swaleh tuongoze na kwa maombi. Imam Swaleh, karibu. Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the compassionate. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the universe, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship and thine aid do we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath and who go not astray. Praise be to Allah, the master of the universe, who has created us and made us into families, clans, tribes, nations, that we may know each other and not despise one another. O Allah, we have gathered here today in this magnificent room, this beautiful cold morning, to beseech your blessings for those who have congregated. We ask you for the goodness of this day and of the days that come after it. And we seek refuge in you from the evil of this day and of the days that come after it. Thank you very much, O Allah, for the blessings of breathing normally bestowed on us. O Allah, bless all those who were involved in the organization of this conference, both locally, the local organizers and the international organizers. Bless them in their time, area of expertise, and their life. O Allah, enable the conference to run smoothly without any hitch and be of great benefit to both the speakers and the participants. O Allah, unite our hearts and set aright our mutual affairs. Guide us in the path of peace. Liberate us from darkness by your light. Save us from the enormities, whether open or hidden. Bless us in our ears, our eyes, our hearts, our spouses and children. Turn to us, truly you are oft returning, most merciful. O Allah, we beg you to impart on us all the useful and beneficial knowledge and acceptable deeds. O Allah, impart to our beloved country specifically and to the universe at large your blessings, embellishment, and its repose. O Allah, make us patient and grateful in the journey of seeking academic excellence to you, and make us look small in our own eyes and great in the sight of others. Send thy peace to our country, O Allah, which is perfect and everlasting, especially during these trying moments, that our souls also may radiate peace. Send also thy peace, O Allah, that we may think, act, and speak harmoniously. Send thy peace, O Allah, that we may be contented and grateful for thy many of the bountiful gifts. Send thy peace, O Allah, that amidst our strife we may enjoy thy bliss. Send thy peace, O Allah, that we may endure all Tolerate all in the thought of thy grace and mercy. Send thy peace, O Allah, that our lives may become a divine vision, and in thy light all darkness may vanish and peace prevail. Our sustainer, increase us in knowledge. Our Almighty, we beseech you to provide us with beneficial knowledge, provision which is lawful, wholesome and good, and deeds which are accepted by you. O Allah, bless our lives from this day on with goodness and love. Help us to stay true to our dreams, to use our gift of life wisely, and to walk into the future with faith, hope, and great love. O Allah, bestow on us tranquility, peace, and security, individually, with our families, within our localities, towns, cities, and our countries, and the universe at large. In your name, O Allah, we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Kwa wakati huu ningetaka kumwalika mwenyekiti wa idara ya falsafa na masomo ya dini, Daktari Ouma Nyabul, kuja hapa ndio wakaribishe rasmi kwenye kongamano hili. Daktari Nyabul, karibu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all participants to this conference. So that I don't go astray from what I have to say, I will rely on a write-up. The one who has just spoken now is the immediate former chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, Dr. Karori Mbugua, and standing before you, as you have heard, is the person who has taken over from him, Patrick Nyabul. So I'll read something about the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, if you allow me. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, who is hereby represented by Professor Munywoki, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jack Odhiambo, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the organizers of the event and on my own behalf, as chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, I would like to warmly welcome you to this conference and to the University of Nairobi, Karibuni. I would particularly like to extend a special welcome to our international guests, especially those who are visiting our country for the first time. I am glad to note that many delegates from 10 different countries are attending this conference. Among the countries represented here, I am informed, include Botswana, Congo, Ethiopia, Egypt, Finland, Germany, Malawi, Mozambique, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, and Netherlands, the Netherlands. This is indeed an international conference, and I would like to thank the Executive Committee of the AASR, led by Professor Damaris Paristo, for choosing the University of Nairobi to be the venue of this important conference. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the members of the local organizing committee, led by Dr. Telesia Musili, for making all the necessary arrangements to enable this conference to take place. I would also like to thank the International Association for the History of Religions for co-sponsoring this conference. As you already know, the AASR was established in Harare, Zimbabwe, in 1992, with the aim of decolonizing, if you could allow me to use that term, and stimulating the academic study of religions in Africa by providing a forum for debate and communication between scholars of African religions. The first AASR conference on African soil took place in 1999 at Amani Conference Center here in Nairobi. The host department was the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies at Kenyatta University, which was then headed by Professor Mary Getui, who is one of our keynote speakers today. That happened exactly 23 years ago, and according to the conference report published in 2000, the weather was unusually chilly, but that did not, just like now, but that did not dampen the enthusiasm of the participants. The conference was also described as a milestone as it showcased the talents, dynamism, and many young East African women scholars of religion in a way that was unprecedented. The holding of this year's conference, is testimony that the AASR is still living up to the expectation of its founders. Also, looking at the wide range of papers that will be presented at this conference in the next 3 days, it is clear to me that African traditions in the study of religion are slowly emerging. Traditions are not formed overnight, and more crucially, the research agenda is being set by indigenous African scholars themselves. I am also happy to note that African women scholars of religion are well represented at this conference and are taking their rightful place in the global study of religion. The theme and the holding of this conference could not have been more timely and appropriate. In recent times, we have witnessed an increase in religious activity in Africa, and there are signs that we are living in an intensely religious period. Recent reports indicate that sub-Saharan Africa is the most religious place on earth, which reminds us of John Beatty's famous assertion that Africans are notoriously religious. I think we were taught that as students here, we learned a lot of that. Professor Mbiti, God rest his soul, eternal peace, was a Kenyan professor, very eminent professor in the area of the study of religion. Unfortunately, religiosity has also been linked to poverty and technological underdevelopment. It has been argued that as a society gets more technologically and economically advanced, religiosity naturally fades away and is replaced by a more secular worldview. Was Karl Marx, after all, right when he said that religion functions as an escape for the poor? Has religion become an opium for the African people? The root cause of poverty in Africa is corruption, which denies citizens access to basic social services and resources to improve their livelihoods. The prevalence of corruption in Africa is a stark contradiction to the core tenets of Africa's two major religions. Some people might contest this, Christianity and Islam, which both advocate high moral integrity for those holding public offices. The sad thing is that greed and graft have made religion itself an accomplice in holding African nations back from realizing their full potential. We are also well aware of the ambiguities and tensions, ambiguities and tensions that Africa is finding itself in. Africa is a place where religious fanaticism and fundamentalism are becoming a pressing problem. religion in Africa is being abused in many ways to suit the interests of some groups who consider themselves custodians of religious values. We have all heard of the Shakahola cult in Kenya recently, which has so far claimed the lives of over 400 members and still counting. Through starvation in the hope of a better life in heaven. In Nigeria, thousands of people have been killed and displaced by the Boko Haram religious group. And in Somalia and Kenya, the Al-Shabaab terror group continue to kill and maim innocent people in the name of religion. In the Central African Republic, a fierce religious war between Muslims and Christians is currently in progress. Indeed, like the Galatians in St. Paul's epistle, we are acting like we have been bewitched. Who bewitched you, Galatians? So we are asked. In the face of these and other challenges, African theologians and scholars of African religions have their work cut out. I hope that this conference will not only yield a better understanding of African religions, but it will also identify special areas of action that will bring about a society that is devoid of corruption, civil strife, religious brainwashing, and fundamentalism. We have much to learn from traditional African religions, for they were devoid of fanaticism, wars waged in the name of God, and unnecessary demonization of the other. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may use that hackneyed phrase, it was not my intention or our intention to give a speech, but I hope that my few remarks will generate some discussion. Let me conclude by once again thanking you all for accepting our invitation to attend this conference and for being with us here today. I wish you a very fruitful day of discussion and deliberations. To those of you who might be visiting Kenya for the first time, I invite you, or we invite you, to take time and look around and enjoy the beauty of our city of Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, our country. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Nyabul, for a job well done. Now, it's my pleasant duty now to invite our Dean, Professor Jack Odhiambo, to make his opening remarks. Professor Odhiambo.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. The Vice Chancellor will welcome you to the university. It's really, first let me acknowledge the presence of the Vice Chancellor in the person of Professor Munyoki, the Chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, Dr. Patrick Nyabul, the Senior Professor in the department, Professor Karori Mbogwa, the honored guest, the Executive President of the AASR, Damaris Paristau, the Vice President, Abel Ugba, and the Treasurer, Van Klinken, and the Secretary General, Homewood, all the guests, as well as our students, researchers, visitors, very welcome to the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. It's really an honor for us to host a conference of this magnitude. I'm not referring to the number of people who attend, even though the number is big, but to the quality of the persons that have come, different types of specialists in the area, scholars of great repute. So I think it's a great honor for us to be able to host you today, to be able to hold discussions together with you, and also participate in advancing knowledge in the area of religion. So since I will also be participating in presenting a paper, I will not speak much, but I wish to invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor, just a second.
There was a small problem. Usually we should have invited these two before you.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So let me invite them then.
yes,
Okay.
Professor Suntoko Fujiwara and
Okay.
Barista.
So there was a slight misstep in protocol. So I would like to invite Professor Paristau Damaris to come and speak. I hope she has had a little accident on the stairs, but I think she's well. And so maybe... Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Damaris Parsitau, originally from Egerton University, but now I am at Negol Institute at Calvin University as the director of the Negol Institute for the Study of World Christianity. I had a small accident coming from breakfast, and I sprained my leg, but my mouth can speak very well. I'm in a bit of pain, but pain is part of the human condition. So I'm happy to be here. I did a speech like the way we do in Kenya, so allow me to read that. But before I say that, I want to welcome everyone. I think I can speak on behalf of the University of Nairobi also, because I am an alumni and a proud alumni of the University of Nairobi. So I think I'm just going to read this speech and the way I did, so that the Vice Chancellor is completely recognized. So the Vice Chancellor, sir, of the University of Nairobi, Professor Stephen Kiama, represented by Professor Monyoki, thank you. The Deputy Vice Chancellors present, Deans of faculties, heads of schools, directors of institutes, chairs of departments and sections, esteemed scholars from across the world, members of the ASR, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the ASR organization, the Executive Committee, the International Association for the History of Religion, our co-sponsors, the international and local organizing committees, and on my own behalf, I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 9th ASR 2023 conference convened here in the vibrant city of Nairobi and in my beautiful country of Kenya, and the one and only department of religious studies and philosophy at the University of Nairobi. It is with great pleasure and anticipation that we gather here today to explore the intriguing theme of creativity, innovation, and imagination in African religions. As we embark on this journey of intellectual exchange and discovery, we recognize that Africa has been a cradle of diverse and rich religious traditions since time immemorial. From the ancient civilizations of Egypt and Nubia to the varied indigenous belief systems and the introduction of world religions, Africa's spiritual landscape has been a melting pot of creativity and imagination. Africa is also at an inflection point as we continue to grapple with the various challenges and promises and the ongoing transformations and tensions that continue to shape how we live in this world and how we understand issues. Add to that mix is the tension and promises that its religions pose to its people across the continent. Our choice of the conference theme is deliberate and timely, as the African continent continues to demonstrate its resilience and resourcefulness in the face of old and new challenges. Through an exploration of the conference theme, coupled with rich and well thought out panels, papers, projects, plenaries, and lectures, we aim to shed light on the dynamics, innovations, transformations, tensions, currents, and synergies between African religions, even as they adapt to the lived realities of contemporary African societies. These conversations are critically important today, especially in Kenya, that has recently witnessed the Shakahola fast-to-death tragedy that has shocked and numbed the soul of this nation and the continent, and frankly, the entire world. I hope that the deliberations and conversation in this conference will help us make sense of this unconscionable tragedy, not just for Kenya, but for the African continent and beyond, that is grappling with the good, the bad, and the ugly of religions broadly conceptualized. Throughout this conference, we shall delve into various aspects of African religions, broadly conceptualized again, including indigenous spiritualities, innovations, creativities, and transformations in all the other religions that inhabit the African continent. We have lined up exciting themes that touch on every aspect of our lives, including politics, history, the arts, music, storytelling, rituals, gender, sexualities, masculinities, violence, religious radicalization, community making, African philosophies, and knowledge systems, its interactions with law, constitutionalism, human rights, and so many other such themes. And I will even host a fireside chat for the African Association for the Study of Religion, Women Caucus, in which we spotlight the life and story of female religious visionaries and their work on religion as a catalyst for social transformation, including one of our spotlight persons, her work growing women and youth leaders, as well as good policing in Kenya and beyond. As an association, we hope to glean insights that will contribute not only to academic scholarship, knowledge production and dissemination, but also to fostering a deeper appreciation and understanding of Africa's lived religious realities. In the spirit of Ubuntu, or Utu, the African philosophy that emphasizes our interconnectedness and collective humanity, let us approach this conference with open minds and hearts. We encourage you all to engage in lively debates, share your research findings, exchange ideas, and foster meaningful collaborations, networks, and creating lifelong learning and long academic and personal relationships. As we celebrate the diversity, creativity, and innovations of religious expressions and intellectual rigor, we must also recognize the importance of ethical considerations in our studies. Let us approach this topic with sensitivity, respect for the communities we study, and a commitment to representing their beliefs accurately and authentically. May this conference be a transformative and enlightening experience for each one of us, leaving us inspired to carry the torch of knowledge and understanding beyond these walls and into the wider world. Before I conclude, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Vice Chancellor, who is represented here by the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, for hosting us, the Dean of Faculty of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, and the Chair of Department, the outgoing Chair of Department, and the incoming Chair of Department of Religious Studies, the local committee led by our able chair, Dr. Telesia Musili, and the team that have done an amazing work putting this together. We like to recognize you, we see you, we appreciate all that has gone into the planning of this conference. We wouldn't be here today if it were not for your leadership. And on behalf of the AASR, I'm deeply, deeply grateful. Before I conclude, thank you. And I think Chair and Dean, Telesia and her team deserves so much better and also a promotion. They did ask me to say that, so it's all on me. Thank you all for letting us begin. Thank you all, and let us begin this remarkable journey of discovery together. As I close, I want to give special recognition to the people on whose shoulders I stand: Professor Mary Getui, Professor Waruta, Professor Mogambi, you know, the big men of religious studies who are all members of the Department of Religious Studies, and the people who made me who I am. If I'm anything in the world, I know it is because of their contribution, and I think most of them are here. And I'm so grateful to stand on your shoulders and to walk, you know, standing tall, knowing that you people shaped me in this space, and shaped so many other younger upcoming scholars. So thank you very much. God bless you, and enjoy the conference. I'm not sure I'll be able to. I need a bit of support. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the drama.
Asante sana Damaris, tumeshukuru. Nataka kuomba radhi kwa kutofuata itifaki vile inatakikana. So kwa wakati huu ningetaka kumwalika katibu mkuu wa AASR Professor Satoko Fujiwara kutuhutubia. Professor Fujiwara, are you here? No, he's not here. Oh, he's here represented. So, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abel Lukba. I'm the Vice President of the African Association for the Study of Religion. I'm here to read the speech on behalf of the General Secretary of the IHR. She couldn't be here, so I'm just going to read what she sent to the conference. Honorable President and esteemed members of the African Association for the Study of Religion, on behalf of the AIHR, of which the ASRO has been a most important regional member since 1995, I extend warm greetings and heartfelt congratulations to you all on the occasion of the opening of your much-awaited in-person conference. First and foremost, let me express our sincere appreciation to President Damaris Pasitao, Vice President Abel Lukba, Secretary General Nathaniel Homewood, and the dedicated members of the local hosts for their tireless effort in organizing this conference. Being another milestone in the history of ASR, this Nairobi conference signifies not only the resurgence of your biannual in-person event, but also the rekindling of intellectual discourse that is vital for the growth and development of our shared field. The theme of the conference, Creativity, Innovation, and Imagination in African Religions, reflects the ever-evolving landscape of religious studies and its interplay with our contemporary world. It is through such academic engagement that we deepen our understanding, challenge existing paradigms, and forge new paths of inquiry. We hope that your gathering will serve as a catalyst for critical thinking, fostering innovative ideas and perspectives that will contribute to the collective body of knowledge in the study of religion. Furthermore, we extend our best wishes for fruitful academic exchanges during this conference. May the presentation, panel discussions, and conversation that transpire over the coming days be marked by intellectual rigor, mutual respect, and a spirit of collaboration. Lastly, we would like to take this opportunity to extend a cordial invitation to all of you to the upcoming World Congress, which will be held in the vibrant city of Krakow in Poland in late August 2025. As an association deeply committed to promoting a global perspective in the study of religions, we firmly believe that the voices and insight of African scholars are most invaluable. There will be a fair amount of travel subsidies for which you will be able to apply. More detailed information is coming soon with the launching of the Congress website. Together, let us continue to build bridges of understanding and foster academic collaboration. I'm very deeply sorry that I'm unable to be with you despite my long-held wish. Although from a distance, I wholeheartedly wish you all a memorable and enlightening conference ahead. Satakao Fujiwara, Secretary General of ASR.
So thank you very much. I think we are proceeding well. Is Professor Mugambi with us here? Professor Jesse Mugambi? Professor Waruta? Not yet. I wanted us to recognize them. I believe they are on the way. Now, it's now my present duty to invite the Dean of the Faculty of the Social Sciences to come here and formally invite our Vice Chancellor to open this conference. Professor Odhiambo.
Thank you. We had a protocol misstep, but we've corrected it. Thank you, Professor Carol Rimbogwa. I wish, before I invite the Vice Chancellor, to appreciate the organizing team, both the local and the international, particularly from our faculty, Dr. Telesia Musili and her company, and also the international team. I think there's one, Diana Lunkwitz, and they've worked very well. I know they've been working for a long time, and they've kept me, or at least Telesia has kept me informed about the steps that they were taking. So we are very happy that it has come to fruition. I wish, therefore, to invite the Vice Chancellor, here represented by Professor Justus Munyoki, to give a word of welcome and also to open the conference. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much. Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dean, for the kind welcome. My name is Justus Munyoki, Director, Research and Enterprise, University of Nairobi. But I'm here to speak on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Julius Ongengo, who is not able to join us this morning. Before I make his remarks, I would like to appreciate the team that has organized this event, because we at the University of Nairobi really value conferences. We value collaborations. And when I looked at the details of this conference, I want to appreciate the nature of the conference, the international nature, the multidisciplinary approach, fully based around the religious studies. But I see the participants coming from across the globe, which is very important. So I want to appreciate that and to say that conferences like this are very important. They are going to allow us to interact and to make new friends and new partners. So thank you very much, all the organizing team. Thank you very much, the organizing the team that has come, the president and others. And you know, where president is being mentioned, it's a big place. It is no wonder protocol was breached a little bit, because we don't know at what point should the president come. We will give the chair people sort of messing up things. You know, president in Kenya is a title reserved to a very high level. The president usually speaks last. So I'm speaking after the president. Now, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jack Odhiambo, a very close friend of ours. Chair of the department, I know Karuli, yours has just ended, and therefore I still find that you are still chairman, but we can say chairman emeritus, and now the incoming chairman, Patrick. And the team led by the president, Damaris, and sorry, Sana President, Madam President, that we had slight injuries. You came down. We are sorry for that. The organizing team, members of staff present, the professors, Mungambi was mentioned, he is not here, he is an elder in this university, students who are here, the participants. Good morning once again. I want to first welcome all of us, especially those who are coming from outside Kenya. Welcome to Kenya in a very special way, and to the University of Nairobi. As you attend this conference, I would like to thank the teams that have been organizing this event, both the local and international committees. Choosing to have this conference in Nairobi is not something you want to take for granted. We value the choice of the University of Nairobi as the host. I understand that the conference is co-sponsored by the International Association for the History of Religions, IAHR, and is therefore recognized as an IAHR regional conference. I emphasize again that in the University of Nairobi, we value what you are doing, and therefore we want again to congratulate the team that selected Nairobi to host this important event. This, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, could not come at more opportune time. Historically, religion has remained and actually continues to be very creative, innovative, and imaginative. It has been a major part of politics. And in Kenya, those who are coming to Kenya, you will realize that we really talk politics a lot. So this is a very timely conference. Religion, similarly, plays a great role in the art, sociology, culture, and philosophy. So there are still many emerging issues around which we can be talking during this conference. And I believe that in the course of the discussions today, tomorrow, and the day after, we are going to be able to explore more about religion. What role does it play in terms of creativity, innovation, and all that? How can religion influence our lives today in the 21st century? I want to acknowledge that religion is very transformative. And in Africa, especially, it continues to play a very significant role in transforming this conference, the way that we think and the way we do things. Religion is responsible for the kind of education we have in Kenya and in Africa. It is the one that introduced the kind of system we have in education, and therefore a parameter that opens the way for individuals in society, the way we are judged, the way we are valued. Religion, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, has introduced new health infrastructure through hospitals, clinics, and all this. So this is what is transforming societies in the continent. Religion has remained very dynamic and creative, and has made Africa progressive the way we are. However, let me note that this innovativeness religion sometimes has come with challenges. It has challenged the political powers currently, even before the post-colonial times, the colonial times, and so on. And I think this continues to happen. This imagination sometimes creates new futures, constantly beckoning with hopes and sometimes uncertainty. Through the renewed discussions bordering on the issues of gender, sexuality, race, areas of health, and so on. And in the recent years, we have seen religion paying very close attention to the past. It also continues to address emerging global and continental challenges through technology, reinvention, and reorganization. And I think this is very important. So I believe that as we go along in our discussions, we are going to be able to assess where we stand today in terms of religion. I know and I'm aware there are going to be many discussions and papers presented. Let us hear, where do we stand? We have, over the time, and today continue to witness true and sometimes false affairs of religion. People coming in the name of religion and telling us a lot. Sometimes you wonder whether is this the true position, or is there misinformation? Where do we stand? We are witnessing religion being presented as business. A big debate is going on in Kenya today in terms of how do we regulate, how do we register. And when you look at the clauses, it's like we are registering businesses, the requirements. What is the purpose? Yet, we know that religion does not kill. True religion does not exploit humanity and does not serve injustice. So anyone who kills or even advocates death, and I've heard the word Sakahola. Sakahola has become the trending name in Kenya today. We are so much talking about this thing in Mombasa, Sakahola. Are we still preaching God? So I note, ladies and gentlemen, that there are main themes and sub-themes and all that around which we are going to be discussing, and these are the issues we must talk. As I come to close of this presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I want to note that religion is a form of social control. Specifically, the relationship between religion and ethics and their impact on our understanding of the meaning and purpose of life. Religion is certainly based on some measure of an idea that God really reveals insights about life and true meaning of life. So these are very important. We find them collected in various materials, written texts, the Bible, the Quran, and so on. So it becomes, our understanding of this becomes a framework for educating and empowering our society in matters understanding the purpose of life. At this level, we recognize that effective personal responsibility and accountability can be built into the institutions of society through education and character refinement, which is very important. This actually makes religion a double-edged sword, in which, on the one hand, it is a form of social control, and on the other side, it can be manipulative. As a community of academia, because that is what we are, it behoves us to elucidate these extremes for the greater good in the society, here and now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to again appreciate the importance of conferences. In the University of Nairobi, we are at the moment organizing what we call the University of Nairobi Research Week. October, we spare a whole 1 week just of conferences. And we count conferences like this as one of them in the year 2023, so this is going to be in our records, Bwana Dean, and thank you so much for that, and the chair and the team. We value conferences. I would like to say that as we go through the 3 days, let us collaborate, let us make friends, let us make a difference. Finally, where do we want to take the many papers that are being published today? We are going to present them. Some of them may inform decisions, but we should act. Let us not stop here. Let us go the way of publishing these papers. Let us see which papers can generate policy briefs, because it's through the policy briefs that we are able to influence decisions in this country, in the continent of Africa. It is not just about tabling a paper here. Let us take it beyond the conference room. With these few remarks, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I would like to declare this conference officially launched. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Bwana Vice Chancellor, for your remarks. So at this juncture, I'm going to invite Professor Abel Uba to introduce our keynote speaker. He has assured me that he'll be able to do his job, and he should be finished by on the top of the hour. So please, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I hope we are still awake and alive and ready to engage. Yeah, I have the honor to introduce the first plenary of this conference, and I have the honor to especially introduce a very distinguished scholar. To be honest, I have known Dr. Warrior since the past 10 minutes. But I have known about his work for a very long time. And I know that he's been producing very incisive research, and that he is a scholar who is getting a lot of international reputation, especially given his recent focus around Islamic studies and all the contemporary issues around that. So I have the distinguished pleasure to actually then meet him face to face, to put a face to the great and wonderful work that I have been reading. So just a brief intro. We won't have too much time to go through everything he's written, which is why we have his name and every other thing here, so that you can go ahead and search for him and look at his work. At present, Dr. Wari is a senior lecturer in religious studies, specializing in Islam at Egerton University, Kenya. But he does a lot of other things. For example, he's also a senior researcher with the Volkswagen Foundation Humanities Research Fellow, where he also looks at some of these issues, but especially he mentions there that he looks at radicalization strategy in Muslim majority urban spaces, which I think is really interesting, because we do talk about some of these things, but always in places where Muslim minority population. So I think your work in that way is quite innovative and unique. He's also, very importantly, the Associate Director of the Center for the Study of Terrorism, Violence, Extremism, and Radicalization at the Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies. That's a think tank that is based here in Nairobi. He studied in Bayreuth and completed his PhD there, which makes you to be home with many people here. And Afa is staring at me. It's quite a lot of things that bring all the scholars from Germany or connection to Germany together here. So it's good to know that. And most recently, currently, his research is also spanning the area of mediatization of religious knowledge, religious transnationalism, religion as speciality, religion and security, Islam reformism in East Africa, and a whole lot of other topics. He does quite a lot of writing, as I've already said, but I think we all are beginning to know that not a lot of people actually read academic books. And therefore, he's a very unique scholar that he's also using other platforms to disseminate the work that he is doing. Among those, he writes policy brief for decision makers and a whole lot of other ways of writing in the modern society. So it's my distinguished pleasure to introduce him and to invite him to give his keynote. And the theme of his keynote is aesthetics, politics, and imageries of fighting terrorism, faith-based entanglement in counter-narrative production in the Horn of Africa.
Thank you so much, Prof, for this wonderful introduction. And I have been given this chance to do a keynote speech, and I want to blame my sister, Damaris Pastau, for getting me into this trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be my start of many other keynote speeches, so you are watching the first inaugural keynote speech from myself. So I chose to speak about aesthetics. I chose to speak about politics of fighting terrorism. And there are many people who do fight terrorism. Of course, we know the boots on the ground, the soldiers of Nigeria and Chad and Niger and Burkina Faso and others. And at the moment, really, the Sahel is burning. And of course, the Kenya army is in Somalia, and coalition of other armies under Africa Union mission in Somalia, currently called ATMIS, in Somalia. So we know usually the normal culprits who go and fight terrorism. But again, over time, there's been very co-optive politics of fighting terrorism that involves other stakeholders. And this is what I want to speak about today. And one of those stakeholders are what we all know, what we gather here for, religious actors. And I'm using the word religious actor in a very deliberate way because it's a very performative space for religious actors to be involved in development-oriented projects that are often related to security. So as I continue, but I want to also do the protocol thing, so Vice Chancellor, DVCs, directors, deans, chairs, and for the chairs of Department of Philosophy and Religion here, I especially want to greet you because I also teach in the same department, similar one, at Egerton University. But we do not carry the article there. And the University of Nairobi is very particular about that. So in Kenya, for the non-local scholars here, University of Nairobi really brands itself as the premier university, and they usually carry the name there. And when my sister over here claimed academic genealogy that links her back to the University of Nairobi, I was seated there and thinking, how do I also get onto this University of Nairobi genealogy? And then I remembered one time when Professor Mraja, who is now in Bomet, and Professor Nzomvu, who was at that time in Bayreuth, there was no one to teach me Quran and Hadith and other courses that I was doing at Masters. So I came to the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and I was taught by Professor Hassan Mwakimako. So I can claim rightly that I'm an alumni here. Now, back, you can hunt me, I'm available, so you understand. So you can quote me very well. So religious actors, I'm using this deliberately because it's a very performative space. Be they clerics, be they laymen, have over the last 2 decades become very critical cog in the production of counter-narratives. So what, as we'll say in Kenya, they will be called somewhere, you are asked to produce materials that will be used to address the problem of terrorism. So this has become very more critical in the continent especially. Currently, Africa is the epicenter of jihadi violence. And this I can say from the Sahel, from the Lake Chad Basin, the Horn of Africa, the Great Lake region, and even Mozambique as recent as 2017 onward. We are at the moment entangled in a violence in which religious actors claim that they want to redraw the boundaries of post-colonial state. So this talk that I'm doing is a reflection. So it's not an academic paper, so don't hang me. If I don't quote you or your friends or any of your enemies, I want to look at the politics of selective religious actor co-option. What were NCCK, people from the Catholic whatever conference, the SUPCAM, the CIPKs, generally. And of course, in every other country, in Nigeria, it will be the same group of religious scholars who will be called to gather somewhere and to discuss this. So I want to look at this politics of entanglement in which religious actors become part of this global war on terror. So I'll examine the resultant material. 2011, Al-Shabaab did something wrong. They abducted a couple of tourists in Lamu. And Kenya has all the time been sitting at the corner and saying, when are we joining this war? So this was really an opportunity, and they say that you should never let chaos go to waste. So Kenya Defense Force went in full throttle, displacing the jihadists from very key, lucrative, localized forms of the national strategy for their own peculiar inclusion politics of discussing prevention. So this is the framework under which the faith actors are included. One interesting aspect around these policy frameworks is there's something called pillars, generally, like the key points of intervention. So there's a pillar called ideological pillar, which was supposed to be done and owned by the religious actors. And this is to which I will return. So the entanglement of the faith-based actors through the religious leaders in the programmatic world of civil society, of stakeholder analysis, of log frames, of implementation matrices, of monitoring and evaluation frameworks, of theories of change, of the annual plans, and so on and so on. So religious actors were suddenly required to know how to navigate this programmatic world of civil society. And so a few lucky scholars who are exposed to development world initially joined this gravy train generally. So interfaith groups even benefited much from this. So in Kenya, groups that represent the Muslim communities like SUPKEM, CIPK, CICC is the Council for Interreligious Council at the Coast. There is the Interreligious Council of Kenya. All these supranational entities really got a new way of life. And this group of religious scholars and functionaries became an integral part of stakeholders who must attend, who must validate, who must get support for their programs. In essence, the whole CVE landscape also creates with it a baggage called workshoppers, people who will move from a forum in Diani to another one in Lamu to another one in Nairobi. I don't know whether we can also classify ourselves as also workshoppers, because we are here and then we will go to Krakow later and other places. Workshoppers, hopping from one forum to another. This creates a surreal and an imaginative echo chamber, self-confirming belief of imminent fear and vivid description of terrorists lacking in the neighborhood unless the stakeholders do something about it. And of course, that is where they will discuss how the policies can be shaped. But please, the question that we need to ask ourselves then is, as performers in this development intervention thing, how are the scholars faring? Are they doing well or are they doing wrong? Basically, the clergy have been co-opted in similar programs by civil society organizations before and by government institutions before. So entanglement to me of religious actors go beyond this campaign on terrorism. 2 minutes, right? Perfect. So scholars have been part of HIV/AIDS discussion, of gender mainstreaming, of disability mainstreaming, name it. Every other intervention that states does always have tried to bring in as part of the inclusive politics of bringing stakeholders together. So in the end, they do create very fascinating materiality that informs the campaign that is done in Kenya. So I'll just share some of the posters and some of the pictures from the forums that were done by these scholars, and then I will end it because this is supposed to give us a reflective understanding. 1 or 2 slides to finalize my discussion. This is a magazine that is produced by the jihadi groups Al-Shabaab. And for the Kenyans, they can read that title on that side. Can someone read for us? Who was the Swahili speaker in this room? Prof, where is he? So it's written, Olewenu wanazuoni waovu. So the discourse of counterterrorism that the faith actors produce also earns the attention of the terrorist group, who make it a point to delegitimize the religious scholars as the scholars of the state. And so you will hear them on the headlines of their magazines. Olewenu wanazuoni waovu. What will that really translate to? Who unto you? How will you translate that? Because it was particularly addressed to the Kenyan Muslim scholars at that moment. Shame on you, or who unto you, the evil scholars. And here in that magazine, they really even had a whole exegesis on relying on Quran and trying to discredit the faith-based entangled actors. We are already dealing with their issues in a different way. So I will end with a video, and then I will open up the discussion to to all of us. I'll end it with this.
Divide the country on religious lines. We, the Muslims in Kenya,
So this was
no more divisions. Let's reclaim and take charge of.
This was a video that was produced by one faith-based organization, and it's part of the materiality of counter-jihadism that captures the element of engagement, of citizenship, of belongingness, and creativity and aesthetics that we are discussing in this conference. So I will...
Violent extremists have tried to divide the country on religious lines. We, the Muslims in Kenya, have said no more divisions. Let's reclaim and take charge of the narratives used by the extremists. How? By speaking the truth. Islam does not condone the killing of innocent lives. Never. As Muslims, Christians, and other denominations, let's unite in the fight against radicalization and violent extremism by fostering peaceful coexistence built on friendship and development. We can influence the narratives and counter-narratives by countering the narratives of violent extremists. We are Kenyans brought together by our national values. We must not be divided by violent extremists. Be a
the level of engagement and creativity that goes in when faith-based actors are part and parcel of these repertoires of human bodies engaging in counterterrorism. And this problem is not necessarily just a Kenyan one. I think there are scholars in Nigeria dealing with the same, in Burkina Faso, in Chad, in whatever. And again, one thing that I didn't mention is that it's a very global form of engagement for religious scholars. So there will be a group of scholars from Al-Azhar in Egypt or in Fez in Morocco who will come and teach or say what they are doing in their own country. And then the Kenyans will move to Nigeria, do the same. So it's a traveling model and a form of exchange that builds religious network between religious scholars, but with the aim of participating in this global world of counterterrorism. So I'll stop it at this, and I think time has run. When I started, I saw 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I was like, 1 hour and 30 minutes, and I was like, really? But time really runs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Waria, for that very insightful presentation. I have no doubt there's a lot of issues and questions out there, so we haven't got a whole lot of time. So I'm just going to go into taking your views, your comments, and questions. Can I just appeal to you, please, to be brief with your question? And if you could just tell us who you are, where you're from, and then straight to your question. Let's keep it under 30-second questions, please. So we're going to do that straight away. So just raise up your hand, and we'll get a mic to you.
Thank you. I can go first. Thank you, Dr. Ari, for taking us through that journey. My question is, from the presentation of the role of the faith actors, there seems to be a dichotomy, so that religious actors or faith-based actors seem to be working with the state and the civil society, and they are targeting the same people as the jihadists or the terrorists are targeting. Each is pulling on their side. So my question is, for the faith actors, and in your own experience, is there an effort or a way or an opportunity for a conversation also with the so-called jihadists or fundamentalists? So that doesn't seem to be one way, or a very clear dichotomy between the two. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got one question here. We're just going to take 3 first round, and then we'll do another round. So we'll take the colleague here and the colleague in the middle.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Itumele Motwarai from University of South Africa. I'm not a Muslim scholar, but I'm fascinated by decoloniality. And as you were speaking, I thought of Fanonian book, Wretched of the Earth, and the conditions of being in the zone of non-being, which is a state of violence. So I just want to find out from you that how are we to make sense with this continuous state of violence that has always been a machinery of either religion, but also of other economies? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, yes, please.
Thank you.
I'll come to you for the second round. No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Andrew Spama from University of South Africa. Mine is just to understand the youth. Which age group are you looking at as through the media? Religion has got captures a lot of young people. So which age group will they normally go out to reach out to, especially through the media, as this thing is post-viral? Because obviously if we don't protect our young people, especially in the form of children, then it will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. So we allow Dr. Wario to respond to those three, and then we take 3 more questions.
Thank you so much. There was one question about faith-based actors and the engagement by religious actors in this and the target on youth. And is there effort for a conversation between the religious scholars on this side and the ones on terrorism? In fact, I had skipped that section. I also wanted to put the discussion between religious scholars here in Kenya and the terrorist group that also use the same text as a form of intellectual engagement that is age-old, in which Islam itself is seen as a discursive tradition. And Islam as a discursive tradition has always allowed for multivocality of texts and allows for people to contest each other's intellectual engagement. When one looks at it from the Islamic perspective, when groups like Brave take a verse and discuss who can wage war, they're engaging in jurisprudential exchange with the person who have produced the earlier text. So it falls within that larger discursive tradition of intellectual exchange in which Islam itself allows for this multipolarity of voices and so on. But then usually whenever, there's one case particularly of a scholar that I know, a good friend of mine, who one time said he wants to go to Somalia and discuss these things with them. And of course, you are not sure if he will come back alive, right? I mean, that's really very daring, and I don't know whether he will have gone ahead with it. But sometimes also really, the terrorist group are also humans. They see this as a very famous scholar. It will look really bad on them if they hurt him. So they will probably put him and say, this is politics. You go. Let us do our things, and you do your thing on the other side. We are all happy. Of course, no, they are not happy on the other side. They're blowing up stuff. So the element around discursive tradition also may help us see how exchanges are beyond just what the state has created as a platform for reconstructing jihadism. It is reigniting the age-old jurisprudential debate between scholars, because on the other side also there are scholars who support them and who churn out ideologies for them, and on the other side we have now a state encouraging this. Then the aspect around decoloniality, how do we make sense of this senseless violence in Mozambique, Southern Africa has been one area that has been free of jihadism. Now suddenly you also have one. So we are all equal on that one. So the continent is completely down on that. So yes, if you look at jihadism itself from the perspective of decoloniality, are they rising against the structures of the fragility of the state that has been created in post-independence era? Is the state inclusive enough to allow for minorities, people who are cross-border, to be part of this? Does it allow for reshaping of the state itself? So what jihadism do, in a way, is to say, to hell with this. Let's reform something else. So Islamic State in the Greater Sahara and Jamaatul Nusra al-Islam al-Muslimin, coalition of Al-Qaeda group and the other ones, are all creating new territories of governance and reimagining how the state can be seen I think this is the epitome of decoloniality, the epitome of reconstruction of colonial static boundaries that cut Maasai into Kenya, Maasai into Borans into Kenya, Somalis. So are they reshaping, are they creating a new form of violent statecraft that we as academics are not taking cognizance of as part of reconstruction? But of course, a very violent agenda, an agenda that is often as African as it is global. Because we cannot say that Al-Qaeda in Maghreb is not African. It is, despite that global franchise Coca-Colaization. Right. Then the other question about the youth. So generally they reach out to youth who come to the mosque. But I didn't speak at length about this. There's a disconnect between the youth and the church elders and the mosque elders. Often, aside from the Pentecostal congregation that may have younger people, a lot of other mainstream religious establishments rely also on patriarchy and gerontocracy to select its leaders. And these people cannot use Facebook, cannot use TikTok, cannot use Instagram. And the Al-Shabaab and Daesh and others use this platform that can be accessed by the youth. So while we can have a fancy, very engaging clip like this, it's not something that is generally produced on an everyday basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've just have the space to take 3 more questions. So Joseph is there from Ngali from Mozambique? Yes, just reference Mozambique.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Prof. I'm Samuel Ngali from Mozambique. And Mozambique was referenced for a number of times by our speaker, and I'm compelled to, to say something. Well, not really, but it is a very interesting topic, so I'm not going to take too long. Here is the issue. The Cabo Delgado situation is quite complex. And of course, religious elements are in there. But there are also some views that says that also the old rule of capitalism is also being applied there, which is to destabilize an area in order to distract people and exploit the natural resources. Now, I wonder if in your research have you looked at that? Is that a possibility? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's take the lady there first, and then we take the lady here second, okay. And then we end with you.
Thank you so much for this interesting presentation. My name is Diana Lunkewitz from University of Hamburg in Germany, and I'd like to know if there is any research so far on gender issues. Are women, for instance, being differently addressed, and so on? Thank you.
For the brevity, that's good. Yes. Oh, that was your question. Okay, so please.
Thank you. Antonio from Mozambique. I think that instead of shaping the state boundaries, terrorism are also shaping our relations as Christians and Muslims. So I would like to know what's happening with relations between Christians and Muslims. Because if we are talking about same subjects, how to deal with terrorism when we are not connected, I think that we cannot go away.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. I think one final one, and then you respond to all of them, and that will be it. Sorry, the lady there, her hand has been up.
Thanks. Thanks, Janice McLean-Farrell, New Brunswick Theological Seminary. The question I have is around youth who are living in transnational spaces. So what about youth, say, in the diaspora, who are very much interacting with their parents' home of origin, but also the spaces where they are. Some are in urban spaces dealing with similar issues. So are they being pulled as well as the ones you would find, say, in Kenya or Somalia?
Thank you very much. And we'll invite Dr. Wari to respond to those.
At the moment, I'm the person between you and Photoshop and group photo, right? And your lunch. So if you allow me to speak, you might still stay angry. So the two colleagues from Mozambique had raised a very key question around resource politics and violence. And unfortunately, Africa is richly endowed. The resources are exploited and taken outside. And this really creates, because people see how the resources are living, right? And they don't feel very happy that these resources are not being shared out. So a lot of times there's been a very strong discussion around if all this violence by jihadism are actually part of a resource war that is larger than the actors involved on that area. In DRC, the area that is affected by jihadism is also the same one that has had decades of insurgencies and so on. In Cabo Delgado, the oils that are off the field and the presence of huge international farms from France and so on. And then, so generally for me, I think when I look at violence that are often carried out by this so-called jihadi group, it relies on local discourses of discontent against the center. The periphery center discourses are always at the center. And resources are also always part of this power relation. Because the northerners are very far from the capital, right? They share very similar cultural and religious belonging with the individuals across the Tanzanian border. But at the same time, this sits on an area that has one of the largest world's deposit of natural gas. That can transform Mozambique if it's managed well. Most of our African governments also, we can discuss that absolutely differently in another discourse. But if these resources can be used well, it can create wonderful inclusion and politics that can see that, not necessarily involved. But then, so jihadists use existing discourses. They don't invent anything new. The only aspect is when they use the option of violence against state that is seen to be foreign by locals at that time. So resources are very central. The issue around gender, there's a lot of work that has been done on gender and violence, and even religious scholars' involvement in counter-narrative production from this perspective. My colleague Fatma Azmia at Technical University of Mombasa, for instance, is doing quite a lot on the gender perspective of this jihadi violence, female recruitment, even the role of the female actors with their own complete agency. And as operatives, as financiers, as fighters, as wives, and often having their own voices in remaking of the violent jihadi acts that are spectacular, like suicide bombers in Maiduguri and other spaces. Individuals who generally take up that out of their own volition. Then, is it shaping the Christian-Muslim relation? Yes. For Kenya, I think I can give an example here. Whenever these attacks occur, there's this apprehension about presence of Muslim bodies in public spaces. You have a huge beard, you are going with your kanzu very well, people are like, these guys are the ones who blew us up just in the neighborhood here. I'm not getting into this matatu, I'm not getting into this taxi, I'm not getting into this shopping mall. If for instance, I wore kanzu, even if there's no terrorist attack for the last 3 years or so, and went to Sarit Center, I'll be more frisked than when I'm coming myself the next day with. So it's created that element of fear around Muslim bodies in public spaces, which is generally part of profiling. And again, terrorists are not stupid. They will not turn up in kanzu to blow up a place, right? Anyway, so generally when these attacks occur, the relationship between Muslims and Christians are tested. But one thing that I think I've come to love about our country is generally people have less historical baggage with their co-religionists from other religions, even when these individuals have been claimed to have done ABCD. So at moments of attack, there can be strained relation. But generally afterwards, people fall back into their normal space and struggle with taxes. Right. And here there is a lot of it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wario. There is absolutely no doubt that you've made a very good start to our conference, and you've left us with a lot of questions, and I'm sure one way or the other, in different fora during this conference, we're going to continue the conversation. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you put in there. So please, could we formally, Alfred, tell me how you used to do this. Is it? Bosa, isn't it? Yes. Let's do this the African way to thank him. We're going to bring the Nigerian culture into this. Let's go 3 Bosa for Dr. Wario. 1. That's not loud enough now. Let's repeat it. Bosa! 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 Thank you very much. We're going to invite the chair back to the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, our moderator, Abel. I think he also deserves a boza. Boza. Abel. Boza. Good. Now, we are coming to the end of this session, but we have 2 short ceremonies to perform here, rituals. Our president is going to gift our VC and also the keynote speaker. And let me clarify, the VC is a public officer, not a state officer, so he can receive the gifts without surrendering them to the state. And in any case, they are worth less than 20,000 Kenya shillings. Thank you. So then after that, we are going for a photo session, and then we break for lunch. So our guest keynote speaker, VC, please come over. And we start with the VC. We can start with a photo.
Yeah, we are so grateful for hosting us, for everything, for the collegiality. So I thought I was loud enough. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we are so grateful for everything, for hosting us, giving us a home and bringing some of us back home. More importantly, this is the University of Nairobi that we remain very proud of to hold. I think this is our first ASR physical conference since COVID-19 pandemic, so we are very grateful for that. And we have a little gift in the African spirit of Ubuntu and community and collegiality, just to say thank you for everything. And so I wish I could stand, but now I can't, but this is for the Vice Chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And now my brother, who was going to blame me if he didn't do well, we have taught with this gentleman in the same department for a very long time. But I think more than collegiality, we are brother and sister. He's my kid brother, let me say that. And he's been very close to me, and I'm so grateful. I didn't have a doubt in my mind that you will deliver the keynote speech of the year. So thank you for everything. Thank you for, also bringing the perspective of Islam into this. One of the things that we've been doing as African Association for the Study of Religion is to stop privileging Christianity as the only religion in the continent, because that has been the case. And we do appreciate the perspectives you have brought in here and have been proven right. And this is your gift. Thank you. We are supposed to greet.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this session. We are now going to take a group photograph on 5th floor. But I would also have liked to recognize Professor Douglas Waruta. I'm told he was seen around here. Is he here? Karibu. Now, Professor Douglas Waruta is one of the founder members of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, University of Nairobi, which was started way back in 1970. So welcome, Professor. He's now retired, but he continues to be a friend of our department. So then, Mother, would you want to say something before we